Hey Peter, how are you?
How are you?
Good, good. Thank you. No music today on the hold button. This news
Yeah,
cycle is getting crazy, Peter.
yeah, it's totally off the charts.
Is it crazy or what? Like, oof.
Yeah, I heard this about that Hillary Clinton shared this. The best is yet to come, and I was like, why does she say that? Yeah,
Yeah, that is not the language that she normally uses. That's Trump talk.
yeah, it's super strange.
It's very strange. It kind of aligns with the Q stuff where they're saying that she secretly works for him, which
Uh
I
huh.
can't, yeah, I don't know if I could get on board with that. It's just kind of adding up. I don't know. Hi,
Yeah,
Michael.
this is like a really hard detective case. Everything.
It's so bizarre. It is so bizarre.
Yeah.
Michael,
Oh,
what do you
Michael.
think of the Hillary drop? Did you see what Hillary said?
Now what she dropped?
She said the best. What did she say, Peter? The best is yet to come.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Oh,
something about the finale.
Hillary's using our shit.
Yes. And I'm like, uh-oh, what does this mean? Like,
Yeah, he's trying to do that reverse psychology.
yeah, we can't fall for it. That's the thing. We can't fall for it.
Nah,
Yeah.
you know the devil's
Making
a
us
shifty,
overthink.
sneaky motherfucker. That's all.
They sure are. They sure are.
That's all right.
It's
Hey, it's good to have confidence, though, right? So,
yeah.
give her a pat on the back. Hey,
Keep dreaming, Hill.
keep on. Way to get him, slugger. Yeah,
No, that I
but
like that.
not to downplay it either. Let's take it seriously, but also, we're not tripping over that shit. So.
No, we can't. We can't. We
But hey, I got to drop out and come back in because my audio did a weird thing where I can't hear.
of course,
I got to keep my ear right up to the speaker. So I'm coming
of
back.
course. Okay.
Seems like a lot of people are a little bit late today, maybe.
Yeah, they'll be here in a minute. Well,
Maybe
I
it was too much for them with the Hillary message.
they're decoding it. Um,
Exactly.
I like what Michael had to say. That was good.
Yeah, yeah,
Don't let it stress you out because it's, at first glance, you can't be like, think like, what's up their sleeve,
yeah.
right?
Oh,
Only
Mr. Mott
Mr.
is here.
Mott. What is going on? This is awfully slow moving. Here we go.
All right, that's a lot better.
You can hear now?
I can hear loud and clear right now.
Very good.
As long as the space doesn't get too big, then I won't have any real big problems. It seems like that's the case.
It's where usually we have people in here by now, so this is just bizarre.
Yeah, well, I walked in on a glitch, so just so you know, take notes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Michael walked in on a glitch, guys. And we also brought up the Queen of Evil, Hillary Clinton.
I wonder when the last time she got a genuine hug. I think that's part of it.
I second that. Can you hear us?
Indeed. So, my dear co hosts and hosts and everybody else, Michael, nice to see you. Peter, Stefan, uh, DGD, art lover, nice to see you too. So, yeah. It is what it is. The world is turning, the rivers are flowing, the sun goes up, the sun goes down. And still, Mr. Trump is talking about the Nobel Prize.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, yesterday or today, depending on where you are in the world. So, yeah, I think he's listening, he's hanging around here, he's doing his thing, but he needs to relax a little bit. Then he goes to, oh, what is Tisha doing today? I'm on a plane here now, so I'm going to listen to Tisha Spaces a little bit, check the grassroots level.
Imagine that. Well, we got to get the message to him then. Go, Trump, go.
Yeah, it has to be like that. Otherwise, he had never chosen J.D. Vance as a vice president. A Tolkien fan. Isn't that so? It has to be.
I mean, you can't make that up.
Wishful thinking. No, you can't make shit like that up.
You can't. And, they're going to gravitate towards people who talk about that stuff.
Yeah, and just the other day, the X platform, when you're jumping into the Swedish MSN, mainstream media, they create the warning. Oh, this is you are going to a site which has disinformation and so on, according to us here on X. Do you want to return to X? Well, there are things happening. I'm not spreading hopium. Let's stay level-headed and keep it on a swivel, as dear Miss Josie would have said. But yeah, we are going somewhere. At least we are going somewhere. So please, guys, girls, ladies and gentlemen, retweet the space, because this will not show up in the flow of your social media. That is for sure. So, and please DM just one friend or somebody that you really don't like. I don't care, but
that's fine. Get the haters up in here. That's fine too.
Yeah. Since I've been thinking about this, because the Nobel family is such a large subject that we can't actually keep going. The last time we almost didn't really get to the subject of the space. So the merchant of death. This is what they called, actually. Well, both Alfred and his father. The Nobel family were quite a bunch, actually, and they have been and still are, you could say, well, not in Russia, but the Nobel Oil Company is still active in the satellite states of Russia and so on. So we are talking Rockefellers here. We are talking Rockefeller size of a family, and yet they are sort of the subordinates to the big guns, the bankers, the banksters, the informational control entity, the stock market control entity, the inventors of the modern banking as we see it today. That happened a while ago. So how come that this Nobel family were involved in the startup, which we would call it today? The stock markets were not quite as, let's say, well, they were actually, but the term startup is, of course, just as when you go and gamble on the casino, They have fancy names for stealing your money that have been printed out of thin air to steal your time. And just to steal it one more time, you pay taxes, you go to the casino. The casino will have fancy names for stealing from you. The government will have fancy name for stealing it from you. And that is just actually in the, let's call it in the large scheme of things, that is actually just to make it trustworthy, that it actually is worth something. And when we are going down that road, we could consider how deeply the concept of money sits at us and the former generations. The blind belief in something, well, we need money, but the blind belief in a system that we easily could see that this is not for us, this is not for the trade, this is not for the trade of people, and so on and so forth. And now when Lebanon and Hezbollah is up on the go, please check out their banking history and their telecom history, and you will quite quickly find that it is the same common denominator as always, which is quite impressive actually.
It's set up as a debt system, and we can't write a check with no money in the bank, but they can. It's illegal.
Yeah. And coming to the legal stuff, it is very creative, and lots of wordings and so on. I will give large credit for explaining the words and so on to Mr. Chance, the universal ombudsman, which is quite astonishing that that word sticks all over the globe, multiple languages, well, not hundreds, but in many languages. That's just one of the small inventions. The bureaucracy that is running over us, creating a wall to create a mental wall to climb over, to defend or to give credibility to the monetary system as well, to the oligarchy's monetary system. Anyway, one guy that knew about this, he was hanging around and doing social democratic Bolshevik stuff as early as in the very late 1900th century. But I'm going to go to a morning in Baku, the oil center of the world at that time. Well, the US had been starting to get it up and running, but the Baku is still in Russia, or the Russia of that time is still a the center of this. This is where it all kicks in. And I'm going to read a little bit, just a tiny little bit. Guess why I got up so early this morning, asked Stalin. Today, I got a job with the Rothschilds at their refinery storehouse. I'll be earning 6 abaz daily. That means sort of 1 ruble. Back in the day that they were speaking the nickname sort of. The Franco-Jewish dynasty, who personified the power, glamour, and cosmopolitan of international capitalism, would have been as amused as Stalin. But they never knew that they had employed the future supreme pontiff of international Marxism. Stalin laughed about this. I'm working for the Rothschilds. I hope, joked Kandelaki. The Rothschilds will start to prosper from this moment and onwards. Stalin replied with nothing, said nothing. But they understood one another. He would do what he could to ensure that the Rothschilds prospered. So this is Stalin. He is actually working for the Rothschilds in 1902. We could think a little bit about it, but I'm going to jump a little bit in the text here and just give you one more little snippet to get this up and started, and then we go to greet the speakers and so on, and yeah. So Stalin is doing like protests, and they're having, many things happening. The workers cheered, inspired by Stalin's aggression, even if Batumis, this is language for Baku, moderate Marxist, led by Karlu, and I cannot pronounce the surname, but Shedhese, we could call it. We will have to learn a little bit more about that. The local hospital manager and teacher Isidor Ramsvili were not. They ran a Sunday school for workers, a soppy approach anathema to Stalin. The legals initially helped and funded his work, but friendly relations didn't last long. So this means that Stalin, he was hanging out, the people that were sort of, moving in the social democrat Marxist direction, they took care of him or supported him. Well, but Stalin was about to turn Batumi upside down. Batumi was a subtropical frontier town on the Black Sea, dominated by the empire's great financial oil dynasties, the nobles and the Rothschilds. Even 20 years later, the poet Osip Mandelstam called Batumis, or Bakus, as it's said today, called it a Russian-style California gold rush city. And this is true because they were very much partying, very big fancy mansions. It is totally crazy, in these days, with the buildings, well, the development goes very quickly. Later on, a little bit later on, they're actually the Rothschilds and the Nobles. This is the world's first pipeline, actually. The Rothschilds and the Nobles built a pipeline to Batumi, which is the harbor, well, the oil field and the harbor. Well, we don't have to. And also, Ludwig Nobel will design and build the first oil tanker as a purpose-driven vessel. This is also the start of the raw oil, the raw oil engine, the sailing ships going out of the history. The Swedes will have the world's largest trade fleet, actually, in this era, and quite a few years moving forward as well. So this is one of the smallest nations, well, together with the Norwegians, which is an even smaller nation, but it's the same owners as usual in the background of it. And they are very, very skilled at building these ships and so on. So they will actually be very efficient when it comes to the seafarer trade, as per usual. But so the tradition is there, so to speak. So the first oil tanker designed, built by the Nobels, by Ludwig Nobel, actually, one of the Nobel brothers, not Alfred, not the dynamite guy, but just one of the others. There were quite a few. So this is Stalin. And there are protests and there are happening things, and one thing is that he makes a deal with the nobles. This is where I think this is the moment in time where things are starting to go sideways for Stalin. They were doing lots of protests together with the workers and so on. Stalin even made other things. He was, robbing banks and stuff. He was a very active young man. So on the 17th February of 1902, the Rothschilds and the Nobel capitulated and agreed to the workers' demands, including some stuff, but mainly a 30% pay rise. And this is 30% for all of the workers in the oil business there. And that was the greatest triumph for Stalin at that point in time. And this means that if the oil kings, the uncrowned kings, the favorites of the Tsar, the nobles, makes a deal with Stalin for a 30%, a third, 1/3 of a pay raise for all of the workers there. And this is many. This was very labor intense, and people were living in kind of a cesspool of it. It's growing so very quickly, and yeah. So he makes a deal with them. He knew and this is way before the Russian revolutions, so we can recognize that. So from the book where I'm getting this, we also have one more thing that I will quote. He's talking to his nickname is So-So. That's Stalin's nickname. So-So, just as spelled as that. So-So, so-and-so, you know. So he's talking to an elderly guy that is helping him with printing, with doing the information, printing leaflets, and so on. You've been printing for days, said Smirba. When are you going to use the money? He has received some money. So handed Smirba one of his leaflets. What's this? Exclaimed the amused Smirba. We are going to overthrow the Tsar, the Rothschilds, and the Nobels, replied Stalin to Smirba's puzzlement. Each morning he hid the pamphlets in peasant fruit baskets, which Smirba loaded onto his cart, meeting Lomb Hasaria in the town. The two bandits stuck the fruit baskets around the factories, distributing the leaflets. If anybody tried to buy fruit, Smirman demanded a steep price or claimed it was a special order. So the importance of information control, and also spinning the narrative, I think he was aware of that. They actually bought their own printing press. So I was asked, I think in the other space or in some other space, which was if we had to pick one thing that was the most important thing for causing where we are today. And I picked, and I said, oh, well, that's the easy one. I said, it's no doubt, it is the printing press. From the mid-1500s, the Gutenberg printing press, if we want to have a date on it. That is the most dangerous thing ever created. So there we are. And I'm not going to jump deeper into this. We can all see this coming. Interesting enough, at this point in time, the nobles' boss, the big boss, taking care of the oil business in Baku. His name is Hagelin. This is Mr. Hagelin. He will be, he is at this time, he is actually born exactly, just some few days before here, or some few years before this. So in Baku, at this time, there is a young kid called Boris Hagelin, which will be the key person in what starts out as a Nobel Hagelin business, a proxy business for ASEA's cryptological department's patent of the cryptograph, which they have picked up from a Mr. Dam out of France, actually. So this is the start of Operation Gladio. This is at this time when these quotes, you have heard this little snippet out of Soso's life, or whatever we could call him. At the outcome of this will be that the Hagelin will run the crypto AG. And this will turn to one question asked by the Honorable William Odom to the CIA deputy secretary or CIA boss in 1986, I think it was, doesn't really matter. After the crypto AG, Cry AG, big scandal where NSA and the Swedes, the relation between Mr. Friedman at the NSA and Boris Hagelin, which will be the one running the crypto AG, which will be, it is a proxy for the Wallenbergs, Ericsson, ASEA business. It comes from there. William Odom will ask one question to the CIA boss. Who told the Viet Cong about crypto AG? Or as William said, who told the Cong about Cry AG? And this all connects then back. This family, in 1902, the year I'm talking about, the Nobel Prize is already handed out for the first time to, and believe it or not, the Red Cross. The Red Cross Inc., I would say, just to make it very clear. So this is where it all starts. They started. So this is the other brother working the weapon side of it, or the weaponry side of it. Alfred Nobel, the dynamite guy, the go boom boom guy, who is supported and financed his side of the business. They had some accidents, working with the nitroglycerin and so on, before they turned nitroglycerin into dynamite or packed it into that to make it more safe to handle and easier to use, and all of this. He is supported by a man called Smith, as in SMETT, J.W. Smith. He's a railroad and estate landlord type of oligarch. He's also, believe it or not, a co-founder of, many years ago, before this is happening. So he's old at this moment in time. He's very old. He actually dies just well, he even dies before Alfred, I think. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. He is a co-founder of the SEB, the bank where Soros runs his business, the bank that stretched out and became a liaison, an ally of many, many other banks during the Third Reich project. The Stockholm was the allegedly, or said to be, spoken of to be the spy central of the world during this 1930s, 1940s, during the Second World War era, so to speak. What is not mentioned that much is that they actually also were kind of a center of the money flow. the Bank for International Settlements in the hands of McKittrick Thomas McKittrick, he is the protege of Marcus Wallenberg Sr., not more than Marcus Wallenberg that is the brother of Jacob Wallenberg. So you have one brother join the Nazis, that's Jacob. He will get, just as Henry Ford, the highest order from the little guy with the mustache. You know, you need to keep the printing presses running. And Marcus, the other brother, he will be setting up the businesses with the Allies at the same time. So we have many things crossing around there. We have the American IG with Ford and of course JP Morgan and Warburgs. The Warburgs will show up every time. They are sort of that. We could include the Warburg in the common denominator because they are sort of, you know, they are tucked in very nicely and neatly with the Wallenberg family and have been so prior to the Second World War, already starting long time ago. And the Warburgs is a banking family. You know, Warburg Pincus today, involved in the actually more or less the controllers of the Fed in the beginning. So we should not, and also being during the war and pre-war, the connection, banking connection across the pond, going forth and back in a very rapid pace. And also within the family, the largest bank in Germany and what today is the largest bank in Switzerland as well. I think they made a clone. They had to save one of the banks, so they made one of these overtakes and so on. But still the same family involved in that. So when we are looking at this, and we are just jumping from, and in parallel, we have Rockefeller doing his oil thing in the US. The connection between Rockefeller and these guys with regards to oil and so on, it will be the first try of a revolution in 1905 that will also connect actually to Franklin Delano Roosevelt and a Nobel Prize. There you go. So Trotsky fails at the 1905 Russian Revolution. Roosevelt will get the Nobel Prize for holding the peace treaties between Russia and Japan, the Japanese. Because the Schiff, this is a modern name again, Schiff will hire in or, get the wheels moving so that the Japanese actually will attack the Russian fleet. So this is the Russo-Japanese naval war. It's more or less a naval war of 1905 in the East, of course, since, the geographic will tell you that. That is actually a distraction maneuver to get Trotsky the chance. So what happens is that Trotsky fails epically. He has to run away. Lenin is slightly involved in this. He will get to be set in prison. And this is where Lenin's name will be formed, because he happens to be in prison nearby a river called Lena. And Lenin simply means the man from Lena who crossed Lena. Lena is actually a Swedish name, very, very common in Sweden for a female. So, and his prison camp is just, by this river. So they had to cross the river when they escaped the prison camp. So he takes the name Lenin there. Which is quite actually amusing. Trotsky is also a working name. It's not his real name at all. So the connection to Rockefellers is quite amusing, actually, because Trotsky, after his failed attempt, when Roosevelt get the Nobel Prize, at the same time, Trotsky is actually on the Rockefeller estates and practicing guerrilla warfare and war tactics. And believe it or not, there is one more connection. We just jump ahead a little bit in time. Or yeah, we can do so. Rockefeller, well, there is actually more than one connection. So in the 1920s, the Boris Hagelin, the guy who was, hanging around in Baku as a kid at the same time as Lenin were doing all of his adventures there, we could call them. This little guy, he has grown up now and he studied and he's been a little while at the ASEA cryptograph department with Van Damme, checking out and the Nobel family will, as I said, start the crypto AG. But in between, in 1 year, just 1 year, when he's done with his studies, he's been working a while for the ASEA cryptography. Just 1 year, he goes to the US to work as an oil man for Rockefellers in New Jersey, I think their office was. And this is, of course, not Boris Hagelin, the crypto AG. Well, he's not the mastermind, but the front figure of crypto AG. He's there meeting his longtime friend from the NSA, Mr. Friedman. This is what happens. And he's working for Rockefeller. Oh, this is just coincidences, aren't they? And a little bit later on, Rockefeller will shim in together with Bush and financing the Third Reich project and the IG Farben, and of course the American IG, Swedish IG Farben. It's all that is today's comparison. It's investor, the Wallenberg big company, owning and controlling actually Vanguard, and by the cross owning and so on, you have BlackRock, and then you have like a quadrillion of subsidiaries to these, and it's all an intricate web of proxy companies and forth and back, and it's almost impossible for an individual to even look at all of this. But in the mains of it, we got Investor, Vanguard, BlackRock. Well, we can throw in State Street and some others. We run them out of Delaware, which is Oxenstierna country, the grace of Delaware, the specific legal stuff of Delaware. It's not by accident that Elon has pulled out all of his business that they were sitting, the X platform or formerly known as Twitter, were sitting in Delaware, and all other kinds of businesses. So all the Fortune 100, even the Fortune 500, all the big foreign corporations, they are all out of Delaware. And that is blue and yellow, and it's Oxenstierna to the bone. And believe me, it was not a coincidence that the founding fathers wrote the Constitution to defend against the Stockholm bureaucracy, the Stockholm banking, the world's first central bank of 1668, and that was created by Oxenstierna. He was dead 600 years back when the guys of the founding fathers, their surroundings, all of them, the people involved in this. So they were leaving Europe to get rid of the Oxenstierna shadow, the doctrine, that they were feeling this coming, they were seeing this coming, the corporatization of Europe were already ongoing then. And this is long time ago. So they made their choice. They understood that they wanted to get away from it, and they had some knowledge of this through their parents and grandparents, of course. But it's not many generations away. They were very aware of this. So the connections are there, from Stalin to Rockefeller to the Wallenbergs, through the Nobels, to the Hagelins, to the Crypto AG, to the Bank for International Settlements. And then we throw in the Warburgs. Well, then you have the Fed, you have Morgan, of course, very important with the Fed thing, also connected to the Rockefellers, of course, to the Schiffs, to the Warburgs, through American IG with Ford, with the Wallenbergs, to the Swedish IG, to the SEB. And this is obvious. This is a straight line. Now I talked too much, and I hope that we got into the Nobels. We are not at the Nobel Prize as such yet, but let's fire away to the speakers. Thank you. And I see John coming up as well. Oh, I think we lost Ryan. Ryan, come back up. And Brian is here as well. Welcome. So, Peter, Secretary Tish, take it away. I'm going to rest my case for a few seconds. Thank you.
No,
thank you,
you.
Mark. Oh, go ahead, Tish.
Does anybody have anything to add? It's so connected. It's kind of hard to wrap your brain around all this. I mean, they're literally all connected, and it's like a big monster that's still in effect today. Like, kind of unbelievable, guys. I'm interested in the Nobel Peace Prize and who received it, because that'll tell us a lot.
Yeah, Obama.
Obama says it all, right?
It says it all. Do we need to take the rest of them? Well, Roosevelt got it as well. For the whole. He was just holding. On an American fleet base, the Russians and the Japanese met, and they made a peace agreement. Fuck! It is unbelievable. That is in 1905. And in 1906, Lenin, Stalin, all of them, the Social Democrat Bolsheviks, they were actually calling themselves that, Social Democrat Bolsheviks. They were meeting their sister party and having the big conference in Stockholm, preparing for the next revolution.
Jump in, Brian.
All right. Good afternoon. How y'all doing? Good conversation, just listening. So I wanted to ask you a question, Mr. Mott. Nothing facetious here, being straight up forward. When do you think they'll present Donald Trump's award to him? He just received the approval from the FDA for the right to try again, and that's going to continue. So you think they'll fit him for it, after he's dead, after he's gone, and then they'll put his up there? Or, because they've kind of played his low key, right? But he's a big hand in the pharma, not just the pharmaca, but the medical properties and the technologies and stuff in those. So, I don't know. I think he's probably strayed away from that kind of message because they might probably knew that one was coming, but surely he's got to be fit for it eventually here, right?
Yeah, actually, if Donald Trump is a psyop and is actually, he with the Space Force, and the Space Force, this can be two ways. we cannot know. Nobody can. Well, somebody does for sure know, but they ain't gonna tell us. I can tell you that. So with regards of the Space Force on top of Ericsson, using also the Wallenberg's WASP AI, their technologies, and so on and so forth. It on the surface, if we take this on the positive note, on the surface, you can see this. And that means either that Trump, Putin, Xi Jinping, and let's call it what we are supposed to see as the opposition, and seemingly they are the opponents. They are trashing the current deep state as we see it. They are crushing it. It's total obliteration of the deep state. We can see the desperation on all the gatekeepers, the sub oligarchs, and even sub oligarchs. We can see, but it could also mean that if these guys are just creating a new setting where you still have the old guard behind the rudder, it doesn't seem likely, but you cannot exclude it out of the equation. Then it means that DET have to be quite a player to play the aggressor against the deep state, doing everything he does and having the backing for it. It doesn't seem likely. It's an unlikely scenario, but until we know for sure, it is still a possibility. He was actually talking about the Nobel Prize yesterday, or even, yesterday, your time, our time as well. So I mean, we can see all these things. Yeah,
John has his hand up. John, do you
yes,
want to add something?
go on.
No, that's completely fine. Sorry I'm late. Completely my fault. I totally lost track of time. I was on a phone call and it just went longer than I expected. So sorry about that. Thanks for hopping in, Peter. But in context of the conversation, I just wanted to add a couple things. The I guess perspective level to think about, and take it as you wish, because right now it's really, what are we going to do individually for action items? It's like, got to clean your house right before you can, as Josie would say, have your house in order. So, we can look at it from the standpoint of Space Force, right? Because essentially, having that installed Space Force specifically as not a fourth branch, but an extension under the branch of the Air Force, essentially what that did was put the Wild West in check. And it did it through the means of the United States Air Force, right? So, a lot of the big elements of the looming problems with, a lot of obviously the Ericsson issues and so on and so forth, then it was, okay, let's grab our mops and buckets and do cleanup duty, right? We had to take, they had to take care of the big element first, sort of thing. So with that being said, kind of what we're looking at now, seeing some things playing out and just some things I just wanted to add, like I said, to the context of the conversation. Let's go back to the beginning point of PayPal in the mid 90s with, obviously we're in one way, shape, or form seeing, the Peter Thiel of things and, Sam Altman, and we've discussed that already, and how does that play? We have to ask ourselves, how does that play a role? X was started as an alternative payment sort of processing, which then the company itself was then deemed PayPal, but whatever, and then Elon gets kind of pushed out of his company, voted off. And, here we are. So how does that play a role into things? We have to pose that question, right? But then more in the specifics, I was on a space last night that was Game Tech Politics, and I posted some things just kind of laying out, mapping out that sort of timeline. I'll put it in the purple pill for everybody. But also just keep in mind that it almost seemed like an attempt to me, and this is just my opinion, hey, if we're going to shine a light, let's shine a light on the players because we're that close, right? We don't have time to waste, so got to highlight and root out some of the possible underlying issue if there was any sort of thing, and we can't negate the fact that it could be a possibility, especially with Thiel's connection with HHS, the health department, Obamacare implementation, which we know the depth of that was not just about healthcare. It was about full, complete control and takeover on every legal aspect as well as health-related aspect. And then, boom, what happens? They, launch the genocide-democide on the entire world. So, that's a big thing to think about. And, you look at Trump and Elon having their, as they say, fireside chat, to keep it removed from the commercial sort of attachment as if they were colluding of sorts, because they weren't. They were two guys talking on a social media platform. That's all it was, right? And, Elon's getting sort of, publicly, let's just say, kind of, shit shamed, and Trump's had 2 attempts on his life. That's a hell of a psyop. At least it would be one that would appear to be a psyop and a psyop too. But I think it's good for us as people to reel it in and say, you know what, maybe we shouldn't put so much faith in man, sort of thing. And let's use this as an experiential moment to take heed in our own lives. It could be a possibility, and I'm just throwing this out there, that this could be initiated by Trump because maybe people were giving him the godlike complex a little bit that he didn't want, because I do recall a certain address to the nation back in 2016 of him relinquishing his power to the people. So there is that element, and we just have to kind of take all of the puzzle pieces and put them together. So I'm just giving it kind of a, let's bring it back to our own lives and apply it sort of action item way, because we have to think about that going forward, even post-election. The best way forward is for us to take little small steps in what we can do in our own lives to have a profound impact for the greater good of humanity. So anyways, I'm going to shut up, but thanks. Just want to add those points.
I'm going to follow that back.
Well, that's not so hard to follow, Jan. The hard thing is that to catch his posts and when he's in a space, because you will not see it. Nevertheless. So we are here hanging around in the space 123 years after the first Nobel Prize was handed out. We still have the Nobel Prize used for the masses as a psyop. We still have it up and running. It has to be the world's at least most long time running active psyop. It is intentional from the get-go. It is amazing. So it is the oil money out of Baku, and that will create this. I hope you check out the articles that they are up there. You will see actually from their own photo albums of Carl Wilhelm Hagelin, the Villa Petronella. Petro as in oil, Villa Petronella. Petronella is actually a Swedish lady's name as well. So it's a double fun. Around that beautiful grand mansion in the booming, blooming, growing Baku, the little Boris Agelin is stumbling around or playing in the park, because they have their own park, of course, big shots, hot shots. It is.
John has. Oh, sorry, John has had his hand up.
Yeah, let's go. Just keep the mics open, guys. Interrupt whenever you want to. So I'm going back to Brian's question a little bit, or to Brian's, smoothly delivered question. So we will see, hopefully, a change. These grand old psyops, they might, you could turn them into something good as well with the right people, but I'm not sure. There are, of course, quite a few during all of these years in the psyop that you need to put in some good people to make it trustworthy, to make it legit, so to speak. There have been some incidents and so on where people actually refuses to take the Nobel Prizes. One of the most significant ones that almost forcefully received it a couple of years after he refused. That is Bob Dylan. He was sort of brought to his knees, I think. So he had to go to Stockholm to make some concert, or playing and receiving it, so that the media could make a little bit about it and so on. After the first refusal, and that honors him, actually. That he had to bend his knee after a couple of years under pressure, I would assume. I don't think he changed his mind, but maybe he wanted to he might have some more things to say to people, so he wanted to stay in a condition where he could speak to people. I don't know. We can never know, but on the personal level. But anyways, that's one of the more significant ones. And when it comes to I mean, we could just run the list. Theodore Roosevelt, 1906. Woodrow Wilson, of course, 1919. Jimmy Carter, 2002. Barack Obama, 2009. Just a few. Well, I write a few days, but that's actually a few months into his presidency. He will receive the Nobel Prize, and he knew the Valentines, both before and after, of course. So they were hanging out, and that goes for the Bush family as well. It goes for Rumsfeld, and the list is long. So they are hanging out.
John, you could just jump on in.
No, that's great. I was actually pretty intently listening, and thank you, by the way, for reminding me of one of the things I wanted to add to that Brian was talking about, and I kind of wanted to get your take, Mott, and Brian too, whoever, on something, because if we look at the stage presence, right, like a lot of times with these people, it's the act of doing something, right? Like, it's symbolic. It's all symbology with these things. And, with the ribbon ceremonies, or the coin, handing off of things, there's always an intent behind it, right? And when I think of, speaking to the topic at hand, dealing with the Merchant of Death prize, it's almost symbolic, as in a place holding. So I guess my first question is, have you, or could this maybe be known as a crowning of sorts? Has it been without putting a crown on your corona? Is this something that is in symbolic form at certain times? Has it, or is it being used as a symbology of a king? And if so, have you caught wind of Trump being crowned king? Because we do know what took place in Saudi Arabia, which already took place. Was that when it happened through the sword dance, or is there another actual ceremony that's going to be taking place? And if so, have you heard anything about that?
Not really, but let me put this way. The Swedish former name of the currency was dollar. Or dollar. It's not spelled like dollar, but it's almost pronounced like dollar, depending on which area of the US you are from. Then they switched to the krona, as in crown. So if you talk about Swedish currency, it's the crown.
Exactly my point. Thank you for bringing that up, because that right now we're at a point, and thank you. You really actually did clarify something, but also it's a good thing to think about too. So here we are at a moment in time, right? Saudi Arabia again. Not only was that a massive trafficking aspect of things, right? Not just the from the children perspective, but just like a lot of just trafficking things. And then so the Soleimani thing that took place, and so on and so forth. But when we think about the other sort of key roles that Saudi Arabia itself played in our Fed notes, yeah, the backing, right? Because
the
essentially
little national thing there. It's the petrodollar, yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so they backed out for the first time in 50 years, so they weren't backing it. So, it poses the question, right? Well, what's really going on for people who may not be aware, but also like, is it backed by something else? Is this a way to usher in this, and this? And what I do want to say from just, more of the factual, not opinion standpoint is, look, the BRICS, they have their thing. They have their collaboration. Gold of sorts has been allocated, and that's a European agreement with some nations. Now, here nor there, whether on the state side here, they, as in whoever wants to control the narrative via mainstream media wants to say that this is going or not going to take place. Regardless, just be aware, right, of what is going on, because the thing of it is if there was an opportunity or a moment in time for a system of control to swoop in when it's at its most vulnerable state, as in mass population isn't aware sort of vulnerability, because the people truly have the power, it would be around this time, because if the public perception is that they weren't even aware maybe of the backing with Saudi, now that being publicly made known, right, a lot of arrests are happening, and there's more chatter about different types of possibilities. So keep in mind they are possibilities, but don't be too quick to jump on these trains, okay? Because it will hyper speed you forward to whatever they control and want to make you contract with without knowing, right? So you have the digital currency, right? And then you have the CBDC, which, in my opinion, I would say stay far away from that right now until you know exactly what you're involved with. And then you have the other end of things when you're dealing with the Treasury. Right. So, we have to be mindful that the only security we have is what we have in ourselves that's physical, tangible, and that we can control. Granted, they may manipulate the value on it, but goods or services, think trade, right? So I just wanted to add that because it really is interesting. I did hear something along the lines of him being crowned and then a possible ushering in, which could be a distractionary thing call it a deep state tactic, whatever. But they were talking about like the implementation of a Nacera Jacera sort of event. But also with that, please keep in mind there was the original Nasara, which was the National Economic Securities Recovery Act. Okay, that was never fully gone through because it made it through to Congress, but it never got signed off on. Okay, the people never got that relief that they should have gotten because at that point in time, and you got to keep in mind when this was, early 2000, our government was hostily taken over in a rogue international sort of way. Again, layer upon layer upon layer. And so here we are today, still the aftermath and a lot of cover up on top of cover up of that event, right? So it would be different. It would seem like it would be beneficial, but just be careful because it just screams like Y2K all over again. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, Brian, jump on it.
Well, thank you, ma'am. That's excellent. So let's talk about that crown for just a moment. See, I feel like it's taken the CDC exactly what they've said and falling into those technology properties. I would say that based on the coronavirus and the nature of it, it's taken them a long time to build the nodes on it based on the graphene technology that's present today in the majority of people. The problem that I'm having here is the nodes, just like they've built this very sophisticated advertising model system of the digital. I think they built the crown, the corona. I think they built the crown the exact same way through strenuous efforts to, well, then using the nanotechnology. The way that the design of it is made, that coronavirus, if you look at the actual germ, the thing of it, those aren't, in my opinion, those are tails. Like the head of it is sticking in it, and those are tails sticking out of it, so they appear as nodes. Here on this front, where we're moving forward now, the CDC made that slip up and said that they had been waiting on, that for 75 years. But the problem that I have with the way that this is moving forward, okay, the crown event, I think that this is going to backfire on a lot of people. The reason why I asked the question to Mott, if when does he think they'll give him his award, is because based on that, it was through his measures that got the chemical companies back in running order with the Supreme Court.
So, Brian, real quick question. So, looking at it from the perspective of a tech side, okay. Yes, I do hear what you're saying with the, the implementation becoming physical, but keep in mind, think of it from a cell phone standpoint, right? So in nodes and computers and stuff like that. So from the tech standpoint, you have the Microsoft patent, which is the 2020-06-06-06, which is the cryptocurrency mining patent that Microsoft had put out. That was an implementation through literally the Fiat car company, right, to mine using braking technology and so on and so forth too. So my thought and my question is, mining people and stealing the funds, adding onto this another layer, which it all is lining up with that CBDC. So my question though is, are you thinking that when it comes to the crypto end of a whole, like you said with the tail, this is part of a blockchain of the old system, but
Yes, sir.
into Web3 then? Or are you saying a new system that they're trying to bridge?
Or both. How about, let's say they've been running the model in the background and watching us run the bilateral out here, right? Like what OpenAI just went through, the restructuring of the company, right? So, the going from a nonprofit to a for-profit, the structure, the way that they put forward that vote, that's critical. It would be the same thing as saying this. So yeah, I agree with you, and yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right, but there might be a little bit more detail in there, right? But the there's a big reason why I brought this up, whether we think it relates or not. The companies that are touching this right now. See, I'm going to read a report to you right quick, John. Just your responses on it. Yeah, they were waiting on these guys to come out. See, I've been holding on to this a little bit, and I was waiting on them to actually present their offering, so that I could see who else's hands were in it. But I'll be real quick though, I promise. Herndon, Virginia, Black Sky Technology. Okay. They just opened up their A-class common stock for sales. Okay. It's a simple offering, but I wanted to know who was controlling the books. The Black Sky is, just to give you an idea for just a quick moment. Black Sky is a real-time space-based intelligence company that delivers on-demand, high-frequency imagery, analytics, and high-frequency monitoring of the most critical and strategic locations, economic assets, and events in the world. Black Sky owns and operates one of the industry's most advanced, purpose-built commercial real-time intelligence systems that combines the power of the Black Sky Spectra tasking and analytics software platform and our proprietary low Earth orbit satellite constellation. With Black Sky, customers can see, understand, and anticipate changes for a decisive strategic advantage at the tactical edge and act not just fast, but first. Now, the problem here is that that's a BlackRock Vanguard thing, but the bookkeeping, that's kind of important. What I was looking at, Oppenheimer Company and Lake Street Capital Markets are acting as joint book running managers for this. Now, they've been there a long time, guys. All right. And this little shitcapade with Donald Trump and Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and all of them. This has been rearing in the works for some time now, bringing this to a position. And I believe, I don't know the medical transition of this, the not just the meat of I know the meat of it, but the nuts and bolts, the wiring, that's where I'm getting a little bit confused.
So here's what I can say based on just one element that I do know. So, obviously the problem is the thought that there is still just one system, right? Because and this is why I was talking about the kind of the looming Y2K element of things, because it's just another implementation of the web, right? It's just called something else, looks a little different, but they can add that, right? So here we go, Web3 again. It's still on the basis of the same thing. There is still an attachment there, okay? It's not as quite decentralized as people may assume. So if there was another element to this, though, let's say there was another system that was built, right? And that system was separated. Now, the only bridge that would connect the two would have to be somehow, some way, a third system that would be solely designed, operated as an intermediary pass through of sorts, right? And it's only in one way, kind of like a check valve, right? And it can't go out. So, and I'm talking from an exchange point, okay? Now, the reason why I bring that up is because, you know, the aspect of where you're coming from, I hear what you're saying, but like my question then becomes, you know, are we at a point of awareness for, you know, critical mass stage sort of thing, to, you know, look at it from an approach of education, or are we, you know, is there a certain level of speculation? Because I know there is on my end where it's just based on what, you know, I can only, you know, assume or know based on my life, right? Like that's ultimately what truth is. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, when you're looking at like the healthcare medical end of things and then the black rocks, it's like, well, we know that Google, right, has a deep affiliation with the Pats and stuff like that. So it seems almost to me as if everything was moved commercially, right? And now you have the World Patent Office. So everything was done through the DeepMind and the Google and everything like that, which is solely attached to that same system. And then it appears to me as if there is another one that will remove the medical end of things. So with that being said, it will be completely off of the current EHR, as well as other issues too, like Authentics with the HHS end of things. They have their own mental health assessment sort of software system, but that will be removed. Now, the last thing I'm going to add is going back to kind of like the BlackRock Vanguard, because even Google doesn't really have the same sort of similar ties and connections like it once did, and there was a shifting in domain implementations were sold off, right? So as if like there's a China sort of element of ownership and control through maybe ICANN, but does BlackRock and Vanguard hold the true power and authority, or was that moved and is that being allocated? Does that make sense? I didn't want to get too deep in the weeds, but my sort of devil's advocate approach here in thought was, you know, we're coming from a place of, yeah, BlackRock Vanguard's still corrupt and you know, hostily taken over in some sort of effort, but it has a lot of that been negated, is my thought.
I don't think so. And the reason why I say that is Microsoft and BlackRock just moved forward with a $30 billion incentive deal to allocate funding towards 3 nuclear power plants that were shut down. They're going to reopen them for their use. And having said that, based on the way things are working right now, okay, I watched Saudi Arabia dump 140 billion into Horowitz, Silicon Valley. All right. Now, right after they done that, BlackRock built a $1 billion facility right next door in Saudi Arabia as a management for that, which is not a good thing. But I've said before, John, and I've thought about this quite a bit, and I told you openly and quite a few others that I think that the Ethereum, when they release these things, Ethereum will eat gold for breakfast, but they own the properties, the technology firms behind the gold and the technologies that they're implementing the gold and silver in. So the technology, the gold standard technology you'll be using is theirs and you're using it. Okay. You're the miner. So they'll eat gold and silver for a little while until they start to raise the price on security to keep that going. And before you know it, you'll be paying, it'll be a loop. You'll be paying them back the same where they're paying you. You think you're sending it right. It's just a circle, a big loop of supply chain there for the 2 things, the 3 things the people, the miners, and the asset class. And all they'll do is
Yeah.
get bigger
Brian,
based on the
I
way
agree
the
with
valuation
you
spreads out.
with Ethereum, 100%. Like I, in my opinion, I would. There's too much of still to this moment in time with Ethereum. There's too much that is tied in to the elements of the control factor and mechanisms that were pre-built a long time ago, right? So yes, but my thought with that is, if there was an off switch, which essentially at this point, there really can't be one. It's just,
well, hold on right there. It's not. Wait a minute, just a minute. We don't want an off switch, John. I don't want you to think that I'm talking negatively towards that. I think that that's actually, but I don't know exactly what they've worked out there. But the circular pattern that I was just mentioning, the way that it's the in and out, back in, and the same rotation from the Ethereum to the asset class, from the asset class to the Ethereum. So they'll need to keep building Ethereum people, right? They'll need to keep building assets for them as we continue to make companies, new startups, or whatever we can do. I'm not suggesting that this is a bad idea. I'm suggesting that we have no idea how that's going to work when it turns to other hands. See, Larry Flink, the BlackRock guy, okay, his office has just been sequestered, sort of. They're approaching him. They want him to step down. They think that his office should be 2 offices, which would put him out the door completely, mainly just be a chair board member, but that would separate the 2 things, and they could become separate entities.
Right? No, I hear exactly what you're saying, but that's why I was kind of like, once again, the arrest started, right? We saw that with Diddy, and then the mayor of New York. You could see the writing on the wall. So it was almost, and that's why I posed the question with BlackRock and Vanguard, because just let's ask the question: what if? Let's look at a positive, half full cup, and say, what if this was allowed to happen? To then have essentially it be transferred over in a way that was like, how do we collect all the assets and then divvy them, right? The greatest transfer of wealth in the world sort of thing. I mean, it kind of seems like a pretty awesome plan to me, but once again, being mindful of what not to get into, right? Because the paper layers, that's what they do. They transfer it, they split and divide, like the nucleus, right? Split it and turn it into something else, and now it's backed by paper. So I love that you brought that up, though. Great points.
Well, there's so many things that can go. I see the hand there, and I'm so sorry. I'll stop here at this, but there's so many things there in this that we could really stop and just talk about. Not a hash out argument type, but something that we'd have to sit down and talk about for days and days and work through in a few weeks. Because what I see here, based on the miners, are all right. If they're going to bring that back here to the United States and make that miner efficient for us, and there's the idea of the securities, the back and forth, and the power raising, the mitigation of funds, how securities are handled. I'm worried about every 4 years, John. My thought is that every 4 years at the halving event, that's going to turn into the presidency. Forget the presidential campaigns and presidential cabinets or congressmen or anything like that. No, it'll turn over to the boards now. And that will essentially, every 4 years since they put the halving event right behind the damn elections, tells me that that's going to take over the elections, the spreading out, right? So every 4 years, there'll be a halving where they'll separate and spread out the allocation of it. I don't know how that's going to work out. And I don't think they do either. The only thing that I know for certain that they've actually done, and I've crunched the numbers too, they went from 100 years, roughly 100, 120 years on a dollar bill or a digital type currency. They've upped their efforts to 140 years, basically. But I'm not buying it because it's too soon and I don't know how much they've tested. I don't know, but, I don't think that it will, there's too many avenues and alleyways for the brokers and certain others to be able to take advantage of, and they would pretty much become another type of presidential banking. sort of a broker would certainly become sort of a centralized bank themselves, right? Or tell me I'm wrong.
Kelly, I just want to add something quick, and sorry, but my thought is this, Brian: the only way out is out in that element, and I think we can all agree that in one way, shape, or form, everything's been commercialized. Okay, even us, they've labeled the people, right? This was the deep, evil rooted elements of things. So when I say out, I mean there needs to be a clean and clear, which you're seeing it. Public awareness is slowly rolling out with the rolling back in the Supreme Courts of things, because you can't just shut that off either. It has to be redone in the way a lawful it should have been done, right? But with that being said, it's like there has to be a complete separation of people and the commercial corporations, and the two shall never meet, right? That would be my thought.
Yeah, that is a pretty good. Or you could say a pretty good start point. So totally agree, 100%. Talking, we are mixing a little bit here with commercial, the commerce side of it, and so on. So we shall not forget the crown, the crown, their involvement. They didn't invent it, but they have been used for it, and that is since 1997. The shadow banking system, which also has to be, well, let's say, dismantled at the same time. This is the offshore banking, the derivatives, and so on and so forth, all of this shady business that have been exposed time and time again, but still is existing. And that is one of the tools in the toolbox that is quite important, just as what used to be the cash, which today is the crypto. So we can see all of these ingredients. We can quite easily, I think, comprehend, not understand, comprehend the 3-4 letter agencies' involvements in the flow of this, the black economy, the gray economy, the gray financing, which is quite a large bit actually, that helps to grease the wheels of the oligarchy train. And this is not working out so good anymore. We will see these agencies will probably be the most outed, and they've been involved in everything, and this goes not only for of course the American branches such as CIA and NSA and so on and so forth. They have already been exposed by Snowden. Snowden did a good job in exposing them, and that of course ties straight back to Sweden to let's just call it to crypto AG, because they never let go of the handle. They crashed that one. The CIA and the Bundeswehr, the German secret police, had to take the blame. But really, that was just to protect Ericsson and the Wallenbergs, simply as that. So what Snowden is blowing the lid on, which I think...
Wow, what you mean? That would sound kind of, sorry, not mean to cut you off. That would sound kind of like the same thing that they just done, because it looks like they're gearing up to blame the Secret Service for incompetency. Yeah.
They will be outed. All the 3-4 letter agencies, they will, according to plan, if the oligarchy can they even try to sort of halfway blame the murder attempt on Trump in Butler. Halfway, even the big accounts were saying, well, it was three-letter agencies, wasn't it? Or all of this. Yeah, they are involved in all of this, but they will also be the ones to take the blame. The same thing went on actually. The NSA had to take the whole load. So when NSA and others, meaning the Wallenbergs, the Ericsson company, the Secret Service of the Secret Service, so to speak, the global one, 184 countries of surveillance. When Snowden blows the lid, what seems to be impossible for all the big accounts to talk about or to even recognize or to comprehend is that all of the data is scraped, picked up in Sweden, on Swedish soil. Each and every
But it's not like that. It's not like that anymore. It comes back. That's what I'm saying. Like, there is a level of eyes on right now because of how this got transferred jurisdiction. So look at MARS, for instance, MARS, the acronym, right? That is the military communications system that is on the ground level, right? So if there was a way for the satellite to communicate to a function on the ground, right, and then be dispersed, who's watching that now? Remember, Cyber Command, Space Force is now under the jurisdiction of the Air Force.
Yeah, let's hope that they are doing well. The X-37Bs, which now is in Elon's custody for some kind of reason, or it's X running them now. They've been, doing their long-term missions up there, doing whatever they've been doing. 903 days. It landed last year, mid last year, I think. So they are doing their stuff.
Should we go for some hands?
Oh yeah. We got so many speakers now. So yeah.
Hey, Kelly, can you hear me?
Kelly, can you hear Tish at all?
Hello, I
I
just
don't
wanted
think
to
she can
say
hear
Yeah, I
me.
can hear
something.
you. Hey. I have a hurricane bearing down on me, and
What
so
are
I'm
you
trying to get like
nerds?
a bunch of shit done. But and I like sat down and waited for a little while, but I just can't. So like if you call on me, you got to give me a minute to get to my phone because it's like I'm getting rained on, and so it's tucked away, and I'm using earbuds. But anyway,
Yeah, I just wanted
think
to
about
say
talking
real
then.
quick.
And don't worry about like
Yeah, just close your mic a minute, bro, and wait.
y'all don't worry about like carrying on with the conversation because what I think I'm finding what you're saying is really interesting. If I have something that has me like hopping up and down, I'll interrupt. Y'all know me. But anyway, have you seen that Musk is now talking about buying Telegram, and that Musk has a freaking game on Telegram that pays you, it's a click game, and it pays you freaking crypto when you win. And just keep in the back of your mind that Musk has said on more than one occasion that what he wants X to be, or his platform, whatever it is to be, is something that holds your identity, all of your data, all of your finances, all of your medical, everything in one app. And you can purchase things, and you can pay check from the government from it, and everything. But that's what he's trying to set up, is an app that controls the world, or at least controls America. So I just want to like remind y'all of that and let you know that he's looking at Telegram, which then we're gonna have like what happens when he buys them all? Then we have a conglomerate, and then we're not in good shape. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with y'all. I didn't know if you knew about it or not. Thanks.
Yeah, then it becomes the everything app, the one that initially was supposed to roll out. Nate, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I just wanted to say Elon Musk works for the Jews, just like Donald Trump, and the Holocaust never happened. Hail Hitler, white fucking power.
All right, see ya. Bobby, go ahead, jump in.
Everybody works for the
Bobby, can
Jews,
you hear
man.
me?
Be real.
Hi, everybody. I'll jump in
Hi,
for just
Bobby.
a minute. I'll just jump in for a minute here. Hey, Mott, I know that you are well aware of Sweden and its roots in basically global economic forum and the whole control of the global economic forum. I would like to point out that in our city, Flint, Michigan, home of the American dream, it was hijacked in 1919 by judges, lawyers that sold algorithms of Microsoft's Pegasus program way back when in 1919. And they sodomized boys and girls in the name of Jesus, Allah, Buddha, Yahweh, and they turned them into girly men and manly girls. And they basically turned out byproducts of the MK Ultra failed human social experiments, pedophile byproducts, sperm gobblers, which dumbed down 90% of DNA in the human condition, which prevented us from building new pyramids, and the sexual perversions that were sold into churches, mosques, temples, and synagogues, sodomized for Jesus, Allah, Buddha, and King of Kings, war gods of BlackRock, arms dealers, Raytheon, McDonnell Douglas, Pfizer, Dow Chemical, all partnered 500 top countries in the world from Sweden right here in America. That's all I got.
Boy, do you stand in the mirror and practice that?
Uh,
Sorry.
so yeah, it is pretty much that was a fast track to it, but yeah, in the essence, Bobby, you are actually you're over the target.
Pretty spot on.
Yeah, I've heard Bobby speak before, so and yeah.
Yeah, that was actually great. That's why I weren't being funny or smart aleck. You must have practiced that a few times, but that was swift.
Well, it's pretty simple. You look at Apple and you look at Microsoft and their algorithms promoting the normalization of homosexuality and the normalization of Satanism. You look at the X platform and it's trying to break through all that. If you look at the Israel Mossad and the Jesuit order, they used the CIA's 12-step rehab Jesus, the CIA's 12-step rehab Buddha, the CIA's 12-step rehab Allah, the CIA's 12-step rehab Yahshua Yahweh, the war gods of genocidal maniacs, which is the WEF, the WHO, the IDF, the ADL, the FBI, and the CIA that assassinated JFK in 1963. Then in 1966, they changed the Talmud, the Torahs, the Quran, and all Bibles, and they added the words, in Good News for Modern Man, the government was put there by God, and the policeman was put there by God, which gave them undue authority and lauded them above everybody else on earth. Then in 1973, they passed Roe versus Wade under the smokescreen of changing the global mental health codes from DSM-1 to DSM-3R, which allowed sexual perverts to be installed in offices and get their priest off with a slap on the hand so they could keep raping. So here at Home of the American Dream, 1919, Civic Park, that's where the Jesuit order basically installed EDS CEOs, my father-in-law, who pays off all the dioceses, raped children, and my other father-in-law's brother, who is a Genesee County eviction officer, that basically threw my wife under the bus as the angel of death, 2000. You can look that up. Ann M. Nicolai, angel of death. That was from the attorney, James Burdock, the mob lawyer in Detroit, who threw me under the bus and told me if I said anything about this, they would murder my children for the next 29 years. So I've had to keep my mouth shut for 29 years. Now I came out with the truth, and the police railroaded me into jail for 16 days, and I have a tether on my leg right now, and they have just told me that I have a D- rating with the Flint Police Department, and they want to put me back in prison on October the 2nd. So I need an attorney and a group of attorneys to come to Flint, Michigan, so we can take down the judges, the justices, the governor, and the whole state of Michigan that is behind the global takeover and the pandemic, which is really a genocide, killing off 64% of the population who have had the jab will die in 3 to 5 years. Sorry, but that's just the way it lays.
And Bobby, don't forget about DSM-5, which was in lockstep with Aquino, and obviously we know the attachment to LaVey at that point, who
But
was
go
head
on
of.
further than that. DSM
Yeah.
6 is what they're pushing here. This is the
Well, right,
MAP
but
law. DSM
yeah,
6, which is allowing pedophiles to marry 5 and 6-year-old children here in Michigan. And Governor Whitmer, with
right,
his crew of Father Dennis Spitzley and my father-in-law, William W. Nicolai, and William James D. Nicolai, and his brother Bob and the Nicolai family are all in cahoots together to pass the MAP law so they can have sex with kids and it legalized. That's what they're pushing in Michigan.
right. So what we need to pay attention to right now. So DSM is a mental health uh, platform, okay, and that's what they use. And so the key is this. So the separation in the systems, the EHR systems, the back end system. Bobby, can you mute your mic for a sec? There's feedback. Thank you. So there's separations in on the healthcare end, right? So their EHR system is for one thing on the medical pharmaceutical end, and then there's a classification and a rating based on quote societal standards that they set. So the DSM-5 is important because that is tying in to Authentics, Israeli
It's
Mossad.
even bigger. May I add to that, John? It's even worse than that. The DSM 6, if you look at that, my wife's a psychiatric nurse, 9-year college grad. She has studied this stuff since 2000 when they threw her under the bus. By them implementing DSM 6, that gives them room for DSM 7, which legalizes the pedophile to marry a child at 5 years old and have sex with them with no regard to the person at all. And that's what they're doing here. And they're transhumanizing kids and they're doing the transgender surgeries at as young as 4 and 5 years old, convincing children that they're not biologically males or females. So this is even worse than that because this promotes Satanism worldwide. And that's what they're pushing, the normalization of Satanism using Schoolhouse Rock, which was Ezra Mohawk, my personal friend. I just put a song up that her and I wrote called I'm Sorry, that my son Nathan's singing, because they brainwashed all the kids on earth using Disney, using Schoolhouse Rock, using the Muppets, and using Sesame Street and Reading Rainbow. And that's how they brainwashed the kids to accept Klaus Schwab's tutu and his transgender drag queen WFEF sidekick, Dr. Yarvel, and Dr. Tedros. And now they're pushing their agenda, and this PACT Act that they're pushing in, this PACT Act is so they can blow the 7 nukes that they've already placed inside of the United States, along with the 5 mini nukes that are placed, that are being, and there 2 of them are dirty nukes, 3 of them, I think, that I forget what the number was, but Pepe Escobar put out a paper in 2003 saying they're already inside the United States, and that's why we have not had a
Hey,
legal president elected
right,
since the assassination of
Bobby.
JFK.
Bobby, I hear you, and believe me, I hear your sense of urgency, and I it's not going like unheard, right? But I'm just for the sake of, I mean, you just threw a lot of shit out there, okay? And by any means, just so you're aware, I'm not trying to say stop talking, okay? Please, just so
It's
we're
not
on the
shit.
same
I
page.
was working for the Defense
No,
Intelligence Agency
I
since
know, I know.
1971, undercover.
I know, but please hear me when I'm saying this, okay? Respectfully, I'm just asking, like, just let's slow this down for a second because we got to think of, the urgency step sort of approach and basic level, like being on X, for instance. Authentics is the ID, okay, sort of verification company that's used on X for verification purposes. Okay, that I was tying into DSM-5 and I was explaining that element just for people who may not know, right? Because I don't want what you're saying to go unheard because it was a lot, but it can become overwhelming. You know what I'm saying? And obviously there's a lot of levels of trauma. This is why they weaponize this. Now, Aquino comes into play. If anybody is not aware, and I'm going to put he was head of psychological operations. He was in high levels of intelligence, and there was other people that he was collaborating with in the government for almost 21 years. So he was also heavily tied in with the Church of Satan and Anton LaVey. So yes, everything you're saying, but these were the people ladies and gentlemen, who were directly involved with the highest levels of intelligence. They were the ones who were initiating. It was like literally Satan was given the keys to governmental control. That is wildly important considering that the doorway in the front, United Nations, was granted access. Okay, and like you said, 1973, 1947, you can go back with, how they were implementing all of the things they did, and Mod has had lots of spaces with that too. So, be aware, please, please. This is your right to remain private. It starts with you not giving access. In a commercial world, everything is in contract. So if you're contracting, unless you have read every single word and you do understand, by the way, I'm using that very intensively, the word understand, stand under their rules, regulations, statutes, codes, policies, and procedures of the commercial world based on terms and conditions by clicking that I agree button, you're granting access by removing your rights. That's what you're accepting. That's the contract that you agreed to. Unless you know what that means and how to operate in commerce, I highly suggest everyone be very careful of what you're granting and who you're granting access to, because you may not be aware, which I'm trying to highlight, that the Israeli Mossad, for instance, may be doing the identification verification through a social media platform, and all you want to do is share some cute pictures of your children, which they're now tracking and tracing using DARPA installed sort of things like DeepMind and Google and Fakebook, which was all paid for and started by the government itself. So these are really deeply rooted things. This is the core of trafficking, why we're all essentially trafficked at one point, and it's heavy. So, Bobby, I hear you. I've reached out to people in your area and prayers, but please just, please just be aware of where I'm coming from, just so more immediate action can be taken, and so your words don't go unheard.
May I add something to this? I'll briefly say this. I have a limited amount of time left of freedom. If I don't speak now, we're all going to lose. What I know in my head would blow your mind if I told you all, so I can't tell you what I know. But I do know this much. If we don't act now and quit talking in these rooms, we're going to lose our freedom of planet Earth. When they blow a nuke, they're going to shut everything down, and you're going to be worse than any lockdown ever. This has been this test city since 1919, actually since 1911, when they crushed Tesla's free energy. My application that Luis Trevino and I invented gives a virtual vortex of spinning endless energy using frequency, vibration, and energy of natural rainbow colors, sound tones, and energy. And it is a free gift to all mankind. And DARPA offered me $550 million for it, and then they shut us down in 2016. Just the medical side of it's worth $1 trillion. The novelty side of it's worth $1.5 billion in the first year. I'm not joking. This thing is incredible. And they stopped me from putting out A432 hertz songs because it drives out the spirits of lying the same way it did to King Saul back in David's day. So when I put out my song in A432 hertz and it went to #1 globally, they deleted all my websites, my Give Me a Break radio shows. We hit 190 countries because we revealed the assassination of JFK. I had Jack O'Halloran on my show with Robert W. Lauder from the United Nations, and we exposed it with the global infrastructure. So it is time to fuck their policies and procedures, their terms of service. Tell them to go fuck themselves because they're written to promote normalization of Satanism. So they can go fuck themselves. They've threatened my life for 29 years. I've suffered at least 29 attempted murders and 7 attempted murders this year that the Flint police are sweeping under the rug, as well as Homeland Security and DHS. And I just got off the phone with Washington not 2 hours ago, and they said there was nothing they can do because Washington, D.C. has been compromised. It's time for us, the American people, to remove these people from offices and remove them from their positions where they are unlawfully installed since the assassination of JFK. The time for talk is over. It's time for action.
There comes a time when
It
good
is
men must be
much.
done.
Amen.
And John, if you want these people who have not noticed that anything's gone wrong to like be woken up gently and mollycoddled and shit, have them for your team. I'm over them. And if you can't see something fucking terribly wrong and we're in bad trouble and we're actually at war and we're being invaded, then okay, bye. But I'm interested in what Bobby has to say, big time, about all the grits and gore of it, because I need to be aware of it because it's headed straight for me. I've got a small phone.
Well,
I'm freaking and I'm in the sight. So anyhow, go ahead. I'm sorry.
well, Kelly and Bobby and John, very, very, very intense and nice discussion. I will slow it down a little bit for the audience. So Bobby is over the target. Tedros, is coming out of Sweden. Yeah, he's Eritrean actually from the beginning, but he's coming out of the University of Umeå in Sweden, which is actually also the Pfizer, the CRISPR technology. You have AstraZeneca belonging to the good old oligarchs here, which is the number 3, I think, of the medical industrial complex or the military medical industrial complex, which is quite much the same. And then we are back to Investor, Vanguard and BlackRock again, running that shit show. Of course, with the military corporations that Bobby is mentioning here, we will add the most high-tech one of them, the ones that controls where the bombs are falling. I mean, it's obvious when you look at it, So, and also Bobby is into something that is quite a serious thing, actually, which have passed many of them, is mentioning the missing nukes. This is a incident or a let's call it a non. It has no disclose. It has no ending to it. It's a ship gone missing with nukes on it. It's called the Arctic Sea, and that is possible. And time frame wise, and with the setup we are talking about from Escobar and so on, it's actually. It's not so far-fetched. So we have a whole shipload of nuclear devices gone missing, which is, of course, hushed down and so on. Around that time, we could say the Arctic Sea. It's quite. It is a little bit alarming, actually. Bobby's mentioning the WEF. Well, we are back on the same track there. The Swedish oligarchs, they have more or less a married in. He's dead now. His name is Adolf H. Lundin. He's the one that really is founding the WEF. So the smallest denominator is coming to us. And Klaus Schwab's father is a business associate with the Wallenberg during the Second World War. Very critical for rotational equipment for manufacturing the manufacturing processes with regard of nuclear devices. If somebody thinks that the Manhattan Project is a American project through and through, and it's that's dead wrong. The tech and the needed knowledge is transferred to a lady called Lise Meitner to the Manhattan Project. And they are in a hurry because they need to do the Hiroshima, Nagasaki to be able to start the Cold War era with a bang. And with, well, let's call it the largest false flag ever. It was not needed for any kind of military reasons or for the Pacific War outcome or something like that. The Japanese should have, in normal circumstances, with regard, if we could call anything with regards of war for normal, well, it's more or less normal during the 20th century because it's war all the time. And still, thanks heaven, not that much anymore. It's, it's been reduced to a level that is, well, it's always bad, but still, nevertheless, the level is, the big war is of our minds and our health and our children. That's the big war. It's not a kinetic war with bullets and rockets anymore. So we have the founder.
John had his hand up, Mark.
Yeah, I'm going. So we have the founder of the WEF is married into more or less the Swedish top oligarchy. We have the nuclear bombs, the knowledge and so on, handed over to make all of this happen. And the common denominator is still there. It will not go away. You cannot rewrite history that much. So the common denominator is there for all of these things. And not to mention Kissinger and Schwab. Klaus Schwab is the protege of Kissinger. He's tutored by him. It's the mentor. So he's just a player. He's not really important in himself. Somebody just handed him a ready-to-go organization from a good old relation with his father and nuclear weapons, more or less, that he is involved in, during this very intense era of the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. So, and the common denominator is there. But you, as I said before, you will not hear the big accounts talk about that. It's an intriguing story, of course, but nevertheless, it's there. In every case of these cases, in every aspect of it. That goes for Soros as well. Soros is not a homemade or by his own in any way, shape, or form. He is a puppet. He's a bagman for this family. No more, no less. He has all his business, all his banking in their bank. They are running the stock markets. They are controlling the stock markets more or less, by the NASDAQ and the technology. They can make. They even made a movie of some people that actually tried to beat the time. The time they tried to beat time for being able to, making deals on the nefarious stock market, which is all a kind of a bullshit hoax there as well. Not to mention the FX market that occurred, of course, after that we went fiat money in the early 70s. So, let's just roll with the hands. Good hearing, Bobby, there. You are dropping all of these things. I urge you to look up the Arctic Sea by yourselves and make up your own mind. Don't take my word for it, but that is one hell of a story. I can tell you that.
You're absolutely correct. And I have been following you even in your other language. I'm trying to learn to speak Swedish, if you want to know the truth. I've been monitoring your rooms anonymously. I would say this and add this. They're going to blow a nuke before this election. There won't be an election. It's already been staged and planned. That's why they put this pact together. I just posted something in the stream about that. And the fact that this global pact from the WEF, the WHO, the CDC, Klaus Schwab, Soros, Dr. Tedros, they're UN puppets, unelected body that agreed on the pact that ends sovereignty for countries and individuals. And they agreed, every one of them, 193 countries, in biometric tracking on each individual. This is a precursor to nuclear war takeover of the Republic of America and total control of Earth. That's what we're fighting against. The time for talk has ended. We need
Bobby,
to act now.
You're 100% spot on, and I'm going to take that a step further. We've been waiting on the PDF version. I'm going to put the link for everybody. The scary part is this has been known for a while. The secondary layer of this is that this is part of the suppression, right? So not only are the the gatekeepers and guards the ones in the quote ID verification end of things, but they're also the same exact syndicate tasked through Mossad sort of implementations of the infiltration. Weird how they do that, right? Create the problem and create the further problem, not bringing the savior complex in at all because they just want to keep being the disruptor. So with that being said, I do want to say one thing directly to you, Bobby, because I was thinking about something in the immediate. And this is directly for your situation, your problem, a thought based on all that we know about the nonsense with the law end of things, but also how it's been overtaken by another element. And I'm just going to simplify it by just saying the element of Alice, the system, right, Alice. So the implementation of that has been the issue. So the way out on regardless, because the other underlying element is because of the direct, now this is kind of the fun vax sort of issue aspect, the direct targeting attacks dealing with your cognitive and discernment abilities is eliminated, deemed by being put on a domestic terrorist list. So that initiates the system of targeting. Now, that also affects other outlying elements, such as, policy enforcers in your local area. They are targeted as well. Okay, so they may be killing.
John, what they're doing to me is railroading me into prison to keep me from telling.
I know. But what I'm telling
And
you,
now how this is done is through Alice, and Alice is a program that was systematically put into the DHS in order to cover up human trafficking, to cover up CPS. That's what this is all about. Human trafficking and CPS, child traffic sacrifice. That's what this is all about. Child sacrifice.
It absolutely is, 100%. So, Bobby, here's what I'm going to say that may help you, okay? Because this literally has helped me in a similar sort of situation too. The only way out is out, okay? I'm telling you, what needs to be done is any removal of any attachment into any sort of electronic system, regardless. It is the immediate necessity on your end in order to remove attached layers, okay? So with that implementation of Alice, like we're talking about, okay? It will literally remove elements, but it needs to be removed. It needs to physically be removed. The problem that we're seeing as a whole, and this is kind of a, to people listening too, think of it as like if an AI system, right, a part of a bigger system, a quantum computer network, right, with multiple quantum computers attached, as like, think of it as like a backup hard drive to your computer, would not be live in a sense of the backups, but it would be as a backup if the main system was attacked. It would be like a security layer, right? Like a flak jacket, Kevlar vest. So that's how that's built into layers of depth. But with that being said, we can't also look at it as in Tedros, the man who we know to be Tedros, right, is pulling the strings. Yes, there's his implementation because he's making and taking steps, right, just as along with the council, for instance, that's massively important, pulls the strings to implement further elements of control through the system. So my point is, a lot of what is being chased, a lot of what is happening and becoming a ultimate problem for a lot of people who are on a list. I was until I wasn't, and then it's questionable at times, but here nor there, is because of the attachments, the digital attachments. Okay, so once again, I'm going to bring it in the immediate sense of not only be aware, but adamantly, do not do it. Screw your feelings in a second, and say, you know what, I'm sorry, you don't get this, and this, and people you've never met in your entire life now maybe not share your post on social media because you're not authentic. Really? Are you kidding me? I'm a man. I'm John. I'm authentic. I'm telling you now. I just authenticated myself. Congratulations. I didn't pay anything, nor did I give up any of my rights to something I don't know, or someone, or a group of people who are using this to target millions. So it does matter. Our actions, our steps that we take matter in the greater outcome of affecting millions of people, a democide sort of event, because we've carelessly, this is a mirror moment, each and every one of us have carelessly and unwillingly, unknowingly trusted people that we shouldn't have. So, I would say right now, Bobby, like, just thought for you, any attachment start with the DOT, remove any aspect you possibly can. You're at a point where it's far beyond the being able to travel freely, which you always have, obviously, the right to do. But the DOT is literally the clause in through the UN, because they do it through the CHIPS network, which is the International Clearinghouse, 40 largest banks, the IMF, Bank of International Settlement thing. That's also where salvage bonds and titles are also done through the BAR of the ABA. So I'm telling you that.
John, may I add something here? All that's fine and dandy, but when you've been attacked by the ADL and the IDF, like I have, and the DEI and the FBI and the CIA, they hit every aspect of your life. I just signed a $1 million deal with EMI Records out of the UK. They sent me an $81,000 check. It disappeared in 2 hours out of my Cash App. This morning, they sent me $10,000, and somebody took that and closed my bank accounts in Fifth Third Bank, Wilson Bank, which is in Tennessee, where I used to get my VA. They blocked that. They closed my Chase Bank, and I just had to open another Chase account. They have attacked us on all sides, and now they're demonizing my wife and I both as pedophiles to try to get us murdered. Right. We tried to go to the store and we're almost murdered. There is no more talk. It's time for fighting, and I've got police officers ready to put bullets in me. And you can't talk to them because you can't talk to them. They're out of their fucking minds.
Right, Bobby. But listen to what you just said, though. That's what I'm trying to really get through to you. You keep contracting in. Get out of the private banking sector. Go to a state chartered credit union where they don't have the
tether from the United States government. I can't do a fucking thing. If I open an account, I break my violation of my tether agreement. If I do anything outside of what this 16-page agreement is, I go back to prison. This is highway robbery, and I need attorneys that know this damn legal system so we can take down these corrupt judges.
Okay, I am not a bar attorney nor a bar member, but I am trying to counsel you right now. Please hear me when I say this. Okay, under UCC 1-308, you want to reserve all your rights in a commercial sort of contract. You have obligated yourself through other various outside elements, the banking cartel, private banking sector, right? Because they're not even abiding by the Basel IV agreements that they were internationally supposed to abide by. That's here nor there, because you're just entering into another commercial contract as a U.S. citizen. And right now, what you need to do is stop contracting in that manner. But what I'm also trying to help you with is an alternative means, state chartered credit union. Okay. That way they can't touch that. If you go to your state chartered credit union, okay, which is not
did Elga Credit Union. They closed my bank account at Elga Credit Union. That's a state chartered credit union, and they attacked it and drained my account. Do you understand that? They drain your account. They stop your finances so you can't have any voice. That's what this is all about.
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. And that's why, you see, and if anything, just so everybody can get help from this too and be aware of what is really happening in real time to a real man, like, this is what they do. I've been swatted 3 times. I know what that's like. I get it. Believe me, I hear you.
Have you had a gun held to your head for 6.5 hours?
Yes, and then I was thrown in solitary confinement because I blew the whistle on one of the officers involved, directly tied to the theft and kidnapping of my child. So yes, I do know what, to a certain extent, you're dealing with because I've dealt with it similarly. Okay, and the only way
Well, let
out
me give
is
you a little
out.
insight. Let me give you a little insight into the Defense Intelligence Agency. In 1971, I was pulled out by the suits in Washington because I had an ability to operate power from on high, which is supernatural spiritual power found in Luke 24:49. They put me on a lifelong mission. In 1971, they set me on fire after they beat the hell out of me. And then my friend Diego, whose family's from Maui, he saved my life. He's the reason I'm still alive because he trained me in martial arts. I have suffered attempted murders since 1971, more than I can count. In 2017, they hit me with a drone pulse weapon and it almost killed me. That was in front of a Black Hawk arms dealers, Black Hawk's pulse weapon. I was the arms dealer's Quad A show tech for Opryland and for all the Quad A shows. I'm the guy that put the computer systems together, the servers together, and demonstrated all the weapons that the kings and the queens come into town and brag and boast. And they're being driven around on the floor by a dominatrix that's a drag queen being whipped. And I saw sergeants and generals and kings and queens all involved at Opryland. And so that was in 2010. So after I broke the Opryland sting ring of child trafficking, where they were sacrificing kids through Thomas Nelson books and the Vatican direct black web, dark web, where they did snuff flicks, Salim Ziadi, the owner of Thomas Nelson books, is the one that put out Good News for Modern Man. I'm the guy that broke it in 2010 in Nashville. So they've tried to murder me since that time numerous times. The only reason I'm still alive is because of God Almighty and power from on high, the gift of his son, Christ Jesus, which is found in Luke 24:49. That is the only reason I'm alive. And my wife and I were transported instantly because we don't deal in sexual perversions. Sexual perversions dumb down 90% of your DNA. And that's why they're promoting the normalization of homosexuality and the normalization of Satanism, so that you don't know that you're a spiritual being, that you have all power that God Almighty gave you, and you have to rise up and take it and believe it. And if we get enough people to rise up, this is a spiritual war. And the spiritual war is fought with spiritual weapons. You can have a pulse weapon, but by God, if you got power from on high, you can survive it. I was hit with that thing. It's supposed to kill you. It wiped out half of my side of my vision for about 13 and a half hours. But because I know how to pray with power from on high, and because I energized 90% of my DNA that you don't, I was able to survive. When you energize your DNA, you can bypass the 5 senses limitations. And that's the only reason my wife and I survived 7 attempted murders this year alone. And we had SWAT teams with rifles pointed right at her head, trying to steal my pit bull and dogs and puppies because they wanted them for themselves. That's the greed that we're dealing with in Flint, Michigan. And her own father had her raped at 12 years old, sodomized from 12 to 15 to 18, double penetrated by CEOs at GMC and at EDS. And then they're sweeping us under the rug when he's got the largest trust fund in the whole Genesee County area. And that's what we're fighting against. Our own families turned their backs on us after attempted murders in 1991, 1995, 2007, 2014. They murdered my friend Patrick Tower. And that is what we're dealing with. And they murdered my friend Mira Warner. They murdered my friend Gene Pastelli from the Manhattan Transfer, John Denny from Cedarwood Publishing Company, Bill and Connie Littleton, because we were exposing the Israel Mossad Jesuit order of Schoolhouse Rock, Jewish, Buddhist, liberal Jesus. And Ezra Mohawk is deader than a doornail now because I sent her a song in A432 hertz. And I said, here, Esther, listen to this. She deceived my son, Nathan Wayne Pazinski. And because she deceived him, I sent her this song. She listened to it and it blew her heart up in her chest because she was evil to the core. She murdered Frank Zappa's baby when she was pregnant with Frank Zappa's baby. Then the Israel Mossad murdered Frank because Frank knew it was an industrial military complex of evil. at the very core, and that was the Israel Mossad and the Jesuit order. So what I'm up against is an army of evil, evil people that are Satanists that pretend they love Jesus. And that's what we're fighting in Flint, Michigan, home of the American dream that was sodomized and hijacked by pedophiles, the Israel Mossad, and the Jesuit order. And that's what we've been brainwashed with. 12 years of Darwinism, 12 years of paganism, 12 years of communism, rolled in and sold as Trinity, 3-in-1 Jesus, the churches, mosques, temples, and synagogues used as brainwashing centers for the entire planet Earth since the Pegasus quantum technology program was put in place in 1947. That's how far back quantum technology goes.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. And that is also when the National Security Act was implemented, which literally categorized everything and put it into districts, I don't know, Katniss Everdeen sort of thing, and like District 12. Bobby, so what I hear from you, and just if you could
What I'm
agree.
asking you, John, is what the hell do I do? What the hell do I do when they pick me up and throw me in jail on October the 2nd, because the judge throws me away and she throws the key away for 4 to 6 to 12 years in prison for assault with a deadly weapon that I did not do, but I had 3 officers claim I did, so it's their word against mine. And they're all corrupt and they're all in cahoots together to get me put in prison.
I know. I hear what you're saying. So what I would ask you right now immediately is, number one, are you under duress? Yes or no?
Well, that's the only way you can argue this, and I have to fire the attorney, whoever he is. I'm under duress.
You're under duress. Thank you for answering the question. I'm asking you one more specific question, yes or no, and it sounds to me, because you stated you're under duress, that you were being held against your will. Is that correct?
That is correct. I'm being held against my will right now.
Okay, so now, because as this is a recorded space, although it is a private corporation under the public jurisdiction, and myself being a witness to you, and I only know based on the witness of the words of your mouth as to be an honest, honorable man, then I could say on the public record that I am in witness to you and your testimony. Okay. Now, that being said, you are in fact being held against your will, right, under duress, and you are being targeted in attack directly. So now that this is on a recorded space, notice the agent is notice the principal, notice the principal is notice the agent. Somebody has to act and do something because they're held under contractual obligation. Whether they do or don't is here nor there. But as such, as a witness, as I testify by my testimony as being a witness to such, and your duress and horrific harm that has been done to you, I will now take action, and I will inform people, right, and let them be aware that you need help and protection because you're being targeted and attacked by people who want to cause harm from you and eliminate your ability to survive because they trespass and the trespass continues, which you've asked them repeatedly to stop. Is that correct?
That would be absolutely correct. Even the Genesee County Tethering Department knows I'm being railroaded. And they know I have $1 million deal with EMI Records out of the UK. And they know that my songs have hit #1. And if you don't believe me, I'll put my charts up and you can see for yourself. I am my songs. If you hear my songs, there's one called Vendors of Misinformation. It takes the total mask off the Israel Mossad, the Jesuit order, and all the churches, mosques, temples, and synagogues as vendors of misinformation. Just one song and exposes it all. I wrote 28-song bucket list with Muriel Warner, Ken Spooner, Roy August, T.J. Christian, Harold Webb, Leo Feathers, who founded the Tulsa song with Leon Russell, and we were all friends growing up. And then my other friends were from Grand Funk Railroad, which was Craig Frost, but they all went a different way. Me, I stayed true to myself and true to my mission since 1971. When I was set on fire by the Israel Mossad and Jesuit order in 1971, I made it a lifelong goal to complete this mission, and I'm still doing it without no pay on my own.
Gentlemen, I think that you need to connect. I hope you follow each other, and you probably have lots of more to talk about. And talking about songs, we will kick off with a little song here. This is the new one from our dear friend, Mr. Desperado. And since I think it's very suitable for the moment, actually, since Bobby and maybe with a little help from his friends or from John and from others, we'll sort this out. And this is our fight song. So turn up the volume on your headsets, sit back, enjoy, and after this song we will have to wrap up because time is getting very late here in Mordor. So Tish, here we go. Let's get out of the bucket seat on your race car and boom.
Bombadil, the hero of the feed. For the awake he plants the seed. With the purple pill he takes the lead.
We lost you, Mott. Can anyone hear that?
No.
No, ma'am.
Mott, we can't hear you.
I think he's trying to reconnect by going out and then coming back in.
I just sent him a message.
I'm going to take advantage of this little lull for a second and ask, what about a trust as far as having your money be somewhere where you can actually get a hold of it, either John or whoever?
You're really muffled, Kelly. Can you repeat that?
Yeah.
A
What
trust?
about
Did you say a trust?
Stay away from a trust. Here's why. The state of states hold a public indentured trust. Everything falls under that. When you see on that green piece of paper written "In God We Trust" in all capital letters, that is the gold, oil, diamond backing of the state indentured trusts. Okay, so does that answer your question? It's another sounds good, looks good, may bring you some relief, but the key of it is that's by design, because ultimately what will happen is there will be a further implementation or something that will come and rise from it, right? Because it's under a system of control. So the best thing that if a trust is set up under a system that you didn't create, who controls the trust? The system that created it, right? The ability to do it in the system. So what I would suggest anybody do in your highest level of authority and protection, they can't dispute it, they can't deny it, is removing the element of playing in the sandbox, so to say. And you do that by simply, I don't care if it's with a crayon on a napkin, and if it's witnessed by somebody that you know and that knows you well, by two of them, right? Kind of like I don't know, if two or more agree, it shall be done sort of thing. Then it stands as truth and fact and evidentiary as you, the living woman, to be true. So what I would suggest is write on a piece of paper what exactly you want to protect, what you're claiming by claim in your statement to be true and fact, and you want to protect that, and then you have it witnessed by two people, and you get it on the public record somehow. I would suggest doing that through your county. There's other options as well, but the county Register of Deeds office, deed being on the land jurisdiction, safeguards the element of commercial sort of, outlying areas of things. So just get it on the county records, and it's going to safeguard you. The fact that it is on a public record and it's a public document and it has to do with a land recording, Register of Deeds office, make sure you give them a color copy and not the original. You keep the original. That's how we should be operating as lawful people in life. If we're going to use their services, because they're all services, every single one of them, they work for us. Now we're telling them who's in charge. We don't ask although we appreciate all the efforts by all the people, but I'm sure as hell as the CEO of my own life, so to say, not unincorporated, by the way, I'm not going to be tied and ask permission from, the garbage man, for instance, if I can go take a piss. It's not going to happen. Not going to do it. So we need to really, really just take heed in the fact that, if we're going to use their services, we're going to be bound by their rules. And that's kind of a reflective mirror moment thing, right? Like we can only blame ourselves if we're going to allow it to continue, but also just be aware of how to combat things in the immediacy, right? And every day, just take one small step and one more effort towards your freedoms, and it makes a difference. Because if one thing is attached, it's all attached.
100%. I hope I'm back now. It was a total breakdown, thrown out and everything. So with that said, it is a fight, and here is our fight song by Alien Innocent, aka Desperado, and don't buckle up. Buckle yourself loose and shake loose, because here we go.
Bombadil, the hero of the feed. For the awake, he plants the seed. With the purple pill, he takes the lead. News delivered, truth guaranteed. Marching through the tweets with power and grace, spreading wisdom, setting the pace. No one like him in this digital space. Mark Bombadil, a shining face. He says, hey now, join the fight. Look, Bombadil, in the light. From the post to the threads, day and night. Look, Bombadil, shining bright. Every message he sends, a beacon of hope for the awake. He helps us cope. Tales of strength on this digital slope. Mark Bombadil, our guiding rope. With his fearless heart and his voice so clear, Mark Bombadil, always near. In the world of X, he's the pioneer, feeding the purple pill like no one else. He says, hey now, join the fight. Look, Bombadil, in the light. From the post to the threads, day and night. Look, Bombadil, shining bright. Every message he sends, a beacon of hope for the awake. He helps us cope. Tales of strength on this digital slope. Bombadil, our guiding rope. With his fearless heart and his voice so clear, Bombadil, always near. In the world of X, he's the pioneer, feeding the purple pill like no one else. Bombadil, like no one else. With his fearless heart and his voice so clear, Bombadil, always near.
Well done, Desperado.
Well
We're going to
done.
wrap. Yes, well done. We're going to wrap it up for today, guys. Bobby, I sent you a DM if you could check that. And we'll reconvene next Thursday. God bless everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful night, afternoon, morning, wherever you are. God bless.
God bless. Take care.